Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hopeful and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hi, friends, and welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. Today, we're going to dive into another topic that blends human design and physical wellness and mineral balancing, and kind of this second part of a series that is not necessarily all coming out at once, but this series of episodes that are all related to this. And the one today is about energy burnout and how to restore vitality through mineral balancing, focusing on your sacral center. And your sacral center is the hub of life force energy in human design. And we're going to talk about how it ties into burnout, particularly when we push beyond our limits, which all of us as women are so prone to doing. And we're going to explore the science behind burnout. And again, one of my favorite things to do, putting together science and spirituality. And we'll talk about the minerals that are depleted during this burnout overwork cycle, and some practical ways that you can realign your energy and your body. And so whether you're new to human design or whether you've heard part one before, part one was about the root center. You don't have to listen to these in any order, but if you're wanting to go through all of the centers, then you can go back and listen to the root center after this. If you don't have to listen to that one first. But whether you're new to this or you've been already in your human design experimenting with your chart, this episode is going to give you a lot of tangible insights into how to align with your design and rebuilding your energy reserves with that focus on the sacral center. And this is such a crucial center, and I'll talk about why. So let's first start with what the sacral center is. Okay, in human design, the sacral center is the motor that powers creativity, productivity, vitality, life force energy, sexuality. All of that happens in the sacral center. And it's directly tied to your ability to sustain energy for work, relationships, and even play. This is the center for pleasure and play. Think of it as kind of this internal battery. And so when it's full, you feel unstoppable, right? And when it's not, when it's drained or overworked or overwhelmed, everything just feels harder and less fun, right? We have a harder time finding the pleasure in things. And so here's how this looks depending on your design. So if you know your type, if you are a generator or manifesting generator, those are the only two types that are going to have this defined. So if you look at your chart, it's going to be the second center from the bottom. So the root is at the bottom, and then the next one right above that, right around your womb space, right? That's the sacral center. And the only people that have this defined are generator types. So generators or mani-gens have this defined. And when you have this defined, this means that you have consistent access to your sacral center. But here's the but. It doesn't mean that you're immune to burnout because you are still a human, right? So we still have I don't want to say limitations, but we have our limits, right? Your sacral thrives as a generator type. Your sacral thrives when you're engaging in activities that really excite you. They light you up, they satisfy you. And so you might hear terms like, that sacral yes, or things that light up your sacral. This is what we're talking about. The sacral is the center that's going to give you kind of the green light or the red light about what you're supposed to do as a generator type. So burnout happens, and we talked a little bit about this in the root center. This is coming from a different place though, because the root center is a pressure center, and it's kind of this pressure to get things done. This is going to be a little bit different, but the burnout happens as a generator type when you ignore that gut response and saying yes to things that are really a no, yes to things that don't really light you up, or just overcommitting because you think you should. And as I tell my generator types all the time, could and should, can and should are two different things. Just because you can, just because you do have the energy doesn't necessarily mean you should be doing it. So some key signs of burnout for those who have a defined sacral center, things like, well, first of all, it's going to be your not self theme. So frustration is the not self theme for generators. It's the same for many gens, but it's a little bit different because it's going to kind of be this combination of frustration and anger that shows up as impatience. So for you as a manifesting generator, it's going to feel like impatience, like I should be further along, I should be right. That's going to be that kind of feeling. So this kind of chronic feelings of frustration, constantly that not self theme showing up, exhaustion despite your rest, just still feeling depleted. I think the big thing, the two big things, the frustration, first of all, that's going to be the biggest thing. The second one is going to be this lack of joy. So think of kind of an apathy, just kind of feeling apathetic about maybe the work you're doing, the lack of joy, because this is a source of pleasure. It just kind of dims it. It's kind of this, puts this lid on it, right? That's what it's going to feel like. So if you have this undefined or open, so these are going to be either projectors, manifestors, or reflectors, you don't generate sacral energy on your own, but I want to say this, it doesn't mean you don't have it. It doesn't mean you don't have the creativity and the pleasure. It doesn't mean you don't have access to that. What it means is you amplify the energy of those around you, which can feel more like riding a wave of energy. So it kind of comes in waves, right? It's not this consistent feeling. So it can come in waves and then it can kind of crash down. Okay. Burnout happens for when you don't have this defined. Burnout happens for you, projectors, manifestors, reflectors, when you try to keep up with sacral beings. You're trying to keep up with those with a defined sacral, which is really easy to do because we live in a generator world. 60% of us are either generators or manifesting generators. So we're surrounded by them, right? So it's either you're trying to keep up with sacral beings or you haven't built up enough rest to release that amplified energy. So when you do are kind of riding the waves of this, maybe it's a creative burst or a productive burst, right? It requires rest on the other side. So when you're not giving yourself that, it is when we burn out. So key signs of burnout for undefined cycles are going to be that wired but tired feeling. And I just did a post about this. By the time this episode comes out, it's probably like a week ago, maybe. You can go back, but I have a post about this because I think sometimes we don't know. Wired but tired is a term I use a lot because I talk about burnout a lot because so many people are dealing with it. But the wired but tired is a feeling like you can't turn your brain off. Like you lay down, your body is so tired and it's begging you for rest, but you can't turn it off, right? Or you check off all the things on your to-do list, but you still don't feel satisfied. You feel like there's still more to do. That's that wired but tired feeling. So that can be a big one, sign for burnout. And let me say this too, that doesn't just happen with those with an undefined cycle, but for an undefined cycle, this is going to be a very common feeling. The other thing is difficulty calming down after a busy day, which kind of goes along with that wired but tired. Like it's hard to turn it off and it's hard to regulate after a busy day. And then the other thing is just this deep exhaustion that doesn't resolve with sleep, right? You can't get yourself to feel completely rested. So those are going to be very common signs for undefined sacrals. So let's talk about some actionable things that we can do to align with your sacral energy based on your design. So first, let's talk about those things for defined sacrals. So generators, manifesting generators, that's what we're talking about. So first, following your gut response. Even if you're not a sacral, if you're not a sacral authority, so even if you're an emotional authority, your sacral is still going to talk to you, right? And so it's tuning into those yes or no questions, that gut response from your sacral. And you can to do this, maybe you just start small with questions like, what do I want to eat for lunch? Or no, not no. Just yes or no. Do I want this for lunch? Right? That's a yes or no question. Does this task excite me? Right? Practicing yes or no questions and letting your sacral give you the response. Feeling it in your body, feeling it in your gut as a yes or no. That is going to train you, teach your body to recognize those gut responses. The more you do this, the more you trust your gut response, the more you know what it feels like to trust your gut response, the easier it's going to become to reserve your energy for what actually lights you up. So you're not doing things just because you can and not because you actually want to, right? The other thing is setting boundaries. And this is something I talk about, especially with my generator clients, generator people, is boundaries, energetic boundaries. I have a whole episode about energetic boundaries just for every human, but this is very, it specifically or especially applies to generators. But it's saying no to energy draining commitments. Every yes to something that is misaligned is a drain on your sacral energy. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Every yes to something that is misaligned, it's not aligned for you, is a drain on your sacral energy. And how do you know if it's misaligned? Well, if you're listening to your gut and your gut's saying no, then that's it's not aligned, right? And it regardless of whether you feel like I should, right? If you feel obligated, especially that, let me say that, especially if you feel obligated. If you're doing it out of obligation, it is probably is a 99.99999% chance that this is misaligned for you if you feel like you're doing an obligation. So I would say let's reassess what you're committing to out of obligation. Or here's the other thing. This is a big one because this is a big thing that shows up in the Sacral Center, this fear of disappointment. Fear of disappointment is the ultimate feminine wound. Like this is the wound of the feminine is the fear of disappointment. And this is kind of the shadow side of the sacral center, right? So we have this not self theme, right? We have our own not self theme, and all of the centers have a not self theme. And fear of disappointment, that's a big one. And that affects your sacral center to the max. Because what happens with this fear of disappointment, there is shame and guilt attached to that. And shame, I could do a whole episode on shame. Maybe I will. Shame is, first of all, shame is the lowest frequency emotion, the lowest vibration emotion. It's at the very bottom of that scale. I talked about in another episode that frequency scale of emotions, that all emotions vibrate at a different frequency. Shame is at the very bottom, literally the lowest one. It's at the bottom. And shame, ironically, strangely enough, shame comes from this is an emotion that lives in your sacral center. I did a podcast. I think I talked about this in that other episode, but I did a podcast interview with Brooke of the Unperfected podcast, which I highly recommend. It's a great podcast. And I have the link. I'll put the link here too, link in the show notes here. But we talked about shame. And actually, I did another interview last week where we talked about shame. So I'll share that one that hasn't come out yet. Anyway, shame, I want to go on a tangent here. I feel like this is important to bring up. First of all, shame is an emotion that lives in our sacral center. Our sacral center is connected to our reproductive organs. So it is not lost on me that so many women deal with fertility issues, reproductive issues, hormonal issues, period issues. It is not lost on me that so many women deal with that. And I dare say every single woman on the planet is born with shame. And let me tell you why. This goes back to the conversation about generational trauma. We have gone for centuries, women have gone for centuries feeling shame about everything, about everything. We have lived in a patriarchal society for centuries, and this is literally built on shaming women for everything. So we are born with shame because it is in our cells, it is in our DNA. So not only are we responsible for overcoming the shame that we feel just in our own existence, our own experience, but now this is compounded by this generational shame that we're literally born with as babies out of the womb because it is in our cells, in our DNA. And I think this is important to bring up because this is the most common emotion that I'm helping women deal with when we're working in these quantum sessions, these quantum healing sessions that we're working on. And again, it's also one of the most common issues for women. It's dealing with your reproductive organs, right? It's period issues, it's hormonal issues, right? All of that. There's a reason for that. There is 100% a reason for that. And I think that when you are an awakened woman and you are aware of these things, you now have a responsibility to heal past and future generations of this shame spiral. And I feel like shame is something that holds so many women back from so many things. and just something that if is affecting our physical body on so many levels. So that was a total side note tangent, but I feel like this is important because going back to my original statement, which is about this fear of disappointment. Again, what happens when you're feeling that fear of disappointment? And I have an episode coming out in a little while about people pleasing, and this goes along with that. So I'll talk about it more there too. But the fear of disappointment, what do you feel like that when you disappoint someone? The initial feeling is shame. Like, I'm ashamed of myself. I'm ashamed, like, shame is what happens. So the fear of disappointment, this drives our decisions so often. And especially and this can be true for any woman, but especially we're talking about right now defined sacral. So manifesting generators and generators. This is going to be probably more common with you, not probably. But the fear of disappointment is a big one. And so if you are making decisions based on your fear of disappointing someone, it is definitely not aligned for you. Like, this is a misaligned decision. And like I said a second ago, every yes to something misaligned is a drain on your sacral energy. So every time we're saying yes because we're afraid of disappointing other people, even afraid of disappointing yourself, that can also be a thing. But I think the fear of disappointing people is the one I want to stick with right now. This is a drain on your sacral energy, 100%. And that shame will rear its ugly head the instant that happens. So I want to bring that forward. The third one I want to talk about here for defined sacral centers, is recharging with aligned activity. So when you're in alignment, the activity itself can be energizing. So if you've ever just been in the groove, you feel like, I'm in the groove, I could do this for the next 4 hours and not be tired. This is an aligned activity. Like, if you're ever in something and you lose track of time, like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for 2 hours, 3 hours, right? This is an aligned activity. And so it's really important after a draining day to do something, right, that kind of recharges the sacral. So reconnecting with something that you love, whether it's something that gets your body moving, like dancing, cooking, a workout, moving your body, something creative, like maybe it's drawing or painting or writing or reading, or, right? Recharging your sacral is still important, even though you have a defined center. With recharging, it is still important. Now, for undefined centers, if you have an undefined or open sacral, so that's my projectors, my manifestors, and my reflectors, you want to create intentional rest periods. So remember, I said this creativity is going to come in waves for you. So you want to plan pockets of downtime throughout your day and throughout the month, knowing that you're not going to be productive all month long, right? So this downtime, or these rest periods, these aren't just nice to have things, right? These are essential. And this is essential for releasing that amplified energy that doesn't belong to you because you're borrowing it from someone else, right? That's essentially what's happening here. You are borrowing that from someone else. It doesn't belong to you. So we have to release it. We have to release what's not ours. This is how burnout happens. We don't release it. We're holding on to it. It's not yours. So this is what happens. Disconnecting from sacral environments. Here's the other thing that happens. When you spend a lot of time, especially if you have a partner, if you're a non-sacral being and you have a partner that is that, like, you really have to be intentional about your recharging and your rest periods. So spending time alone, finding a quiet place to recalibrate, right? If you're around a lot of generators or mani-gens, you might be unknowingly pushing yourself to match their rhythm and their pace and their cadence. This is a recipe for burnout. And then here's the third thing I want to say is focus on quality over quantity. Instead of trying to do more is not better. Instead of trying to do more, focus on what actually matters. So your wisdom as a non-sacral being is going to lie in your efficiency and not in endurance. Right? You are efficient. You're not worried about like doing the marathon. It's not about endurance for you. It's working smarter but harder, basically, right? So quality over quantity, that's going to be crucial for you to avoid burnout. So let's look at kind of the sciencey side of this, another sciencey side of this, and look at the minerals, because I love to talk about minerals. And this is how my clients, when looking at their human design, putting it together. So when you're out of alignment with your sacral center, it's going to deplete key minerals in your body. So the most common, or the most important ones, and the most common for your sacral center, first of all, it's going to be magnesium. talk about magnesium a lot because it's responsible for so many things in the body. And we use it the most. And so it's depleted the most quickly, the quickest, right? It's very easily depleted during times of stress. So it's going to lead to poor sleep, anxiety, period issues, muscle tension, sleep. I said sleep. I think I said sleep issues. It's gonna affect so many things. And so I've talked about magnesium before, well, a gazillion times on the show, but one important thing to remember about magnesium is that you can play around with the dosage for yourself. So magnesium glycinate, you probably know this by now because I've said it so many times. Magnesium glycinate is the form you want to look for. We want to aim for 5 times your body weight, but then play with the dosage. So I've said this before on the show. When I am in times of stress, or I recognize that I've been in a period of stress, or if I'm recognizing like it's time for my cycle or my cycle is about to start, then I increase my dosage, knowing that I've been depleting myself and I want to boost those stores of magnesium. So you can play with the dosage there. Potassium is another one, really critical for energy production because it is required for thyroid conversion and getting thyroid in and out of your cells. So your thyroid hormone helps with energy, metabolism, all of that, right? So it's critical for energy production, and low levels can lead to fatigue, brain fog, and even moodiness. So potassium is a big one. Sodium, which we've also talked about a lot on the show, this is another one of those that's depleted very quickly during times of stress. Our adrenals use a lot of sodium. And so when we're stressed, our adrenals are stressed, and this is going to affect your sodium source. So hydration, remineralizing your body with electrolytes, with good quality unrefined sea salt. This is going to help with energy balance. So hydration is going to be key for you. Zinc is another one. Zinc is it's multifaceted here because zinc works with your immune system, but it also works with your hormones and it works with your hormonal balance. It supports tissue repair. And so low levels of zinc can worsen fatigue, worsen burnout, and it's going to make you more susceptible to getting sick, right? Because it works so much on our immune system. So we want to be mindful of zinc. Calcium is another one. I have a whole episode about a calcium shell. So you just go back. It was last year. It was actually maybe longer than that ago. It was a while back. But I have a whole episode about this. But I want to speak on this just for a second, because chronic stress can lead to what is called a calcium shell. And this is a calcium buildup in the tissues, right? This is not the same thing same thing as high calcium in your blood. It's high calcium in the tissues. So when I am running a hair tissue and mineral analysis, it's going to be high calcium in your hair. Hair is a tissue. And it basically means that your body is not using calcium properly. And what happens is when our body is in this chronic state of stress, it's this protective mechanism where your body is going to pull out calcium. So let me say this first. Calcium is a structural mineral. 90+% of it is supposed to be in your bones and in your teeth. When it's in your tissues, this is a problem because, hey, I mean, you've heard of things like bone spurs, right? There's calcium deposits. There's calcium deposits. We can have, think of like kidney stones or gallstones. It's calcium deposit. So we don't want to build up in the tissues. But what happens is when your body's releasing a lot of cortisol, it's this stress response. So it's to protect your cells from this blast of cortisol that is going to end up in your cells. So it builds up this little protective mechanism to prevent so much cortisol going into the cells. So it builds up literally a calcium shell. Now, this happens over time. This isn't like an instantaneous thing. This happens over time. The buildup of it does. And what ends up happening, there's so many symptoms that can come from this. So I've had clients who they had severe brain fog, memory issues. I had a client who was dead set on she had ADHD, couldn't concentrate, couldn't really remember things. Like it was just a lot of memory and brain stuff. And girlfriend had a massive calcium, like her calcium was through the roof. And we did all the things. We did some work on her gut because she was about to get on medication. Like she was like, I'm just going to go to the doctor and get on Adderall or something because I can't function. I have a job. Like she had a pretty high stress job career. And she's like, I got to function. Anyway, we did all the things, went away. Never got on the medication, the calcium shell. I'm telling you, it affects a lot of things. So this is going to leave you feeling sluggish, moody. It can affect your emotions, how your emotions play. It's going to affect how your brain is signaling in your, the neurons are signaling in your brain. So there's a lot that can happen. So calcium is a big one. And I don't want to get into the whole, like, how do you break the calcium shell? I feel like it's a whole other conversation, but just being mindful that chronic stress can cause this to happen. But when we're prioritizing all the other minerals that I just talked about, things like vitamin K, boron, magnesium, I've talked about magnesium, all those are going to help as well. But that's just all of those are what we want to focus on when it comes to minerals that are affected by burnout and affected with your sacral energy, right? So let's put all this together here. Here's how to bring it all together with some more practical steps of how to align your energy. And I have some examples that I want to go through of how to really connect with your sacral center. So first of all, for sacral beings, my friends here who have defined sacrals, first we want to work in cycles of energy and rest. And this goes for everybody, really. I mean, because I just said that, like if you don't have a defined sacral, your energy is going to come in waves. But as sacral beings, we still have to rest. We're still a human. So trust your body to tell you when to stop. And typically that's going to be we talked about the root center in the last one. Your root center is the pressure center. And so when we're able to, if you have a defined root center, you're feeling that internal pressure to do things. And so it's again listening to your body. If you have an undefined root center, it's that external pressure. You feel pressure from the outside world. So it's all goes back to listening to your body. And so trust your body when it's telling you to stop. This might look like, 2 or 3 hours of focused activity, and maybe you have 15 minutes, you get up, you go walk around, go for a walk, and then you come back. That's typically what I have to do. Like change your environment. You kind of have to break like a pattern interrupt, right? And then you can come back. Now, the other thing is what I mentioned before, when you are a sacral being, you can also recognize when this is all going to go back to listening to your body. You can also get into those cycles where you're like, holy cow, it's been 4 hours and I'm still at it, right? Because you're so in it, you're so aligned. And non-sacral beings can do the same thing. I have so many projectors who have been taught, because this is true, you have limited energy, right? And you really require a lot of rest and break stuff. But there are projectors who are like, well, crap, I didn't feel like I needed a break. I did this for 4 hours, but you're doing aligned work, right? It's still exciting you. It's lighting you up. And you could also be feeding off of other people's defined sacral. So that could help too. But point is, when you're doing work that is aligned and that lights you up, you can do more for longer periods of time, but it still requires you to listen to your body, because at some point, either your mind or your body is going to hit a point of exhaustion. Your mind's going to end up getting tired of thinking and whatever it does, thinking and doing things, or your body is. So it still is going to require rest at some point. So the point is here, trusting when your body is telling you to stop and give yourself a break. For non-sacral beings, you need to be more intentional with building rest into your schedule, especially after you have really intense work sessions, or if you have intense like social sessions, social interactions, or like a social environment. So just being mindful of that, and being mindful of taking time to discharge from the day and discharge from other people, right? We need to just like brush it off, right? Throughout at the end of the day or throughout the day. Another thing here to nourish your sacral center is replenishing minerals with food and supplements, right? Minerals are crucial here. Magnesium rich foods, dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, cacao, pumpkin seeds, like all of those are really good magnesium rich foods. Potassium, bananas, avocado, coconut water, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, like those are really great sources of potassium. Sodium, right? Good quality, high quality unrefined sea salt, Celtic sea salt, the Redmond salt, those are my two favorites, but just find a good unrefined salt. And then obviously, if you want to go deeper than that and you want a more customized, curated approach for that, then consider doing testing like the HTMA, the hair tissue and mineral analysis, to get a more personalized plan. And that's really the beauty of it. Like, yes, it's the beauty. There is beauty in understanding what's going on in your body, but like the really powerful thing about it is that you get this customized plan based exactly on your HTMA. So you have this customized, curated protocol, exactly the things you're deficient in, the cofactors that go along with it, and all the supporting minerals. So that's a really, really cool thing about the HTMA. So consider getting that done if you want a personalized plan. And I have some of my clients too who do this, they do the HTMA, they want to do all the labs with me, whatever. So we do all the labs, but then they continually do the HTMA like every 4 months or so because they want to stay on their customized protocol because the customized protocol is going to come in a 90-day supply. And so for 90 days, they have this customized protocol and it adjusts. So every time they do the HTMA, it's going to adjust a little bit based on their needs, but they want to keep doing the customized protocol. And so they keep doing the retesting where they are. And then so it's really a cool thing because then you're constantly on a customized protocol, getting exactly what you need and not just, oh, I'm just taking a multivitamin, hoping that that's filling in the gaps, right? So side note there. Another thing I want to talk about is deconditioning practices. So for sacral beings, reflecting on, remember that gut response I talked about. So reflecting on where you've been saying yes when you really meant no. And then journaling on things like, what is exciting me? What's lighting me up? What's draining me? Where am I not listening to my gut? And this might be something that you want to do on a daily basis. Maybe at the end of the day, when you're kind of reflecting on your day, or maybe it's a week, maybe it's a weekly thing, whatever works for you. But reflecting on that, what did I do today or this week that excited me? What am I currently doing in my business and my life that's exciting me? And then what is draining me? And these are really good reflection. I mean, it's good for anybody, but especially for sacral beings, because this is where you're really going to be able to hone in on where you're saying yes out of obligation, where are you saying yes out of fear of disappointment, right? Where am I turning off my body signals? My body's clearly giving me a signal and I'm ignoring it, right? Those are really good questions to ask yourself. And then for my non-sacral beings, asking yourself, whose energy am I amplifying? Have I been amplifying? What isn't mine to carry? What do I need to let go of that's no longer mine? And even when you're kind of discharging from the day, maybe it's a visualization practice. Maybe you're visualizing literally releasing the energy that doesn't belong to you. That's a really good practice, just to just let it go, literally let it go. So I want to give you some other practices here for the sacral center, just to give you some ideas. So remember, I said that the sacral center is a center for creativity, pleasure, play, life force, sexuality. So think of all of those words. Those are the things we want to think about as far as practices for how to support the center. So first, think of creative playtime like a kid, right? So your sacral thrives on creativity. It thrives on joy. It thrives on play. So prioritize time for unstructured creative play. Now, what does this look like? This could be doodling, painting. Maybe you have adult coloring books that you like. Maybe it's cooking a new recipe. Maybe it's rearranging your house, right? Maybe it's redoing your bedroom. Maybe it's playing with your workspace. Maybe it's playing in Canva. Maybe you like doing that. Maybe it's gardening, right? Something that it's non-structured. And this is going to be hard for people. For those type A perfectionist people, unstructured time is like, oh, what do I do with myself? Right? We want to take away the structure and just let the play out. Maybe it's puzzles. For me, I am about to admit this. Last year, maybe part of the year before. No, I think it was just maybe part of the year before. Anyway, I really got into, I love puzzles. I've always loved puzzles. And when we were on family vacation, not last summer, the summer before. So I guess, yeah, just right then. There were the Airbnb we stayed at she had like puzzles. And so my kids and I, and they were like pretty decent, like 250 pieces, 500 pieces. And so we would do, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so therapeutic. It's like so cathartic. So yeah, I really got into puzzles. And so last year, dealing with a lot of stuff, like I was moving through a lot of stuff in my business, moving through a lot of stuff personally. There were so many like emotional breakthroughs. I kid you not. I did, because I have some here on the table that I haven't put in frames yet. Because I started doing them, and then my kids, I was like, "Oh, this is cool." So I started doing them and putting them in frames. Like there's one back here. You can see this is my daughter loves Disney movies, so it's an Encanto puzzle. She's got a couple in her room. My son loves Sonic. Anyway, I did in a span of probably 8 months. I did 1, 2, 3, 4. I did probably nine one. I'm about to say this out loud. 9 1,000 piece puzzles. I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. So that was really the only thing that would get me out of my head and out of it was I was working through so much mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That was the only thing that would get me out. So for me, that was this non-structured, like creative playtime for me. It was so therapeutic. So point is, Find what feels like that for you. Movement is another one. Movement is always good. And the sacral energy is tied to your body. And so moving ways that feel good. Dancing, maybe you've heard of somatic dancing before, which is literally just moving your body in a way that feels good. I mean, just put on some music and free. And here's the other thing. This is a challenge for those of you. For those of you who, if I were to say, turn on the music and just move your body, whatever feels good. And you're like, no, like I need a choreography. I need structure. I need you to tell me what to do with my body. I'm going to challenge you to try somatic dance. Turn on music. Lock yourself in your room. You don't have to do it where anybody can see you. Turn on some music. Just let your body move freely without judging yourself, without thinking about what you're doing or what you look like or what people might think you're, because nobody's watching you. Focus on feel good, how it feels rather than how it looks. I challenge you. This might be one of the hardest things you ever done. And I am telling you, the connection that builds with your sacral center, this could change things for you. I'm not kidding. I'm not being dramatic. This could change everything for you. This piece, it's just tearing down those walls of judgment and whatever else. The shame, right? Again, going back to the shame. That's the only thing, that's the only reason we're worried about it. We're dancing and worried about whatever it looks like because we don't want to feel shame. That's it. It's literally it. So if you go in your room by yourself, lock the door, nobody has to look at you. This is a big one. Try it. I'm telling you, go try it. And then you can also do some hip opening poses like yoga poses, things like pigeon or recline butterfly, things that help release tension in the pelvic area, right? That can also help. And then reconnecting with pleasure. This is another one. And this kind of goes back to the other one, the creative playtime, because the creative playtime also brings pleasure, right? So those are kind of connected. But think about pleasure in terms of physical and emotional. So activities are going to bring you pleasure without a goal or an outcome necessarily. So things like maybe it's taking a bubble bath, maybe it's um wearing clothes that make you feel sexy. Maybe it's putting makeup on even though you're not going anywhere because it makes you feel good. Maybe it's cooking yourself a really gourmet meal and really savoring the food brings you pleasure. Maybe it's sexy time with your partner, your husband. Maybe it's right things that are going to bring you pleasure. And without doing, here's the other thing. Because I have been guilty of this a lot. This is still something I have to catch myself. Doing the thing for an outcome is still not really tuning into the pleasure of it, right? There's still this kind of masculine energy around it where you're doing it for an outcome. For example, there's two ways you can do meditation. I can do meditation because I know it's going to feel good. I'm going to, get out of my head. I'm going to get into my subconscious. Maybe I'll get a breakthrough later. Maybe I'll have, maybe God comes through and tells me something, right? But I can do because I know it's good for me and it's going to feel good. Or I can do meditation trying to get something out of it. Like I'm thinking, I'm working so hard and I'm doing it because I need to check it off my list. And because if I don't do it, then I'm not going to get these downloads and God's not going to come tell. Like there's two ways to do it. So if we're doing it the latter way, this is still not connecting with your pleasure. If we're doing it the first way, I said, because I know it's going to make me feel good, that this is connecting with pleasure. And this can do anything. You can do the same thing with talking about a bubble bath. You can do the same thing. I'm doing a bubble bath because I have to relax and I have to like this is still doing it from this like masculine perspective. Like I need to get something out of it. So doing a thing without getting something, without the intention of getting something out of it, this is pleasure. You could say the same thing about sex with your partner. Like you're just doing it, let's just get it over with and let me, right? This is not the same thing as like, let's, be slow and let's talk. Right? There's two different ways to do all of these things. So connecting with pleasure is doing it in a way where you're not trying to get something out of it. Okay. Breath work is another one. Talk about breathwork a lot. Eventually, I'm going to do a whole episode talking about my experience, my journey with breathwork, but practicing deep belly breathing to really activate and connect with the sacral. So feeling the belly move with the breath, like really feeling into your body moving with the breath. This is going to be really helpful for tuning into your body, to your sacral. Sound healing can be really important. So you can even get on YouTube or I'm sure I've never looked, but because I don't use it often, but you could look at like Spotify or Amazon Music, wherever other places you get your music, and just type in like frequencies for your sacral center. There are frequencies, specific hertz, right, that can correspond to your sacral center. So you can do that. Uh, there's certain frequencies, right, that connect with your sacral center. Also, you can just use your voice. So, like humming, singing, chanting, all of these things just to activate the energy in your body. Journaling for your sacral center. So, things that connect with your sacral center. What brings me joy, the most joy in my life right now? What activities make me feel energized? What is the one thing I've always wanted to create, but I haven't yet? Where am I saying things like I said before? Where am I saying yes to things that might feel like a no in my body? So, really journaling on what sensations and emotions are correspond with the sacral that I've already talked about, but journaling on those things. Journaling, there's a book. I'm trying to think. Michael Hyatt's book. I cannot remember the name of his book, but Michael Hyatt, if you don't follow him, he's great, very motivational. But he was talking about, pretty sure it was his book. He was talking about this study that was done on no. I lied. It's Brendan Burchard's book. Brendan Burchard has a book, and it's about he has a couple books on high performers. And there was a study done, and this was a very big study that he was a part of. But it's is a study all about high performers and the practices that they did to be successful high performers. And one of the things that that the study really honed in on and found, one of the findings of the study was about how high performers journaled, right? That was one of the big things, the practices that really made a difference for them and made a difference in their success and their career, their business, and their life. Journaling, right? It seems so simplistic. Journaling. So I mentioned journaling a lot, and I know it sounds like ugh, sometimes people I just give it to my clients and I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. And I don't know if they ever do it, but like there's literally studies now that are showing high performers, people who are successful in life and business and happy and fulfilled, journaling is a huge part of that. That it's huge. So I just want to leave that there. Okay, connecting with water. This is another one. The sacral center is linked to the element of water. And so if you ever think about it, if you've ever been someone who gets their best ideas when you're in the shower, there's a reason for that. Mindfulness in the shower, right? Going near a body of water. If you've ever gone to a lake or the ocean and felt like this, like healing quality, this healing sensation, like, oh my gosh, this is touching my soul. This is not coincidence and you're not crazy. This is for real. Drinking more water intentionally, right? Imagining it as fuel for creativity. Connecting with water can really help you connect to your sacral center. And bonus points here, if you can do all of these other practices that I'm talking about while you're either like near water, connected to water, like all of those can also help, right? Manifesting through visualization. Visualization is another one to help you tap into that creative potential. So closing your eyes and imagining yourself doing something like, so it's basically if you're not doing something that brings you pleasure, you're imagining yourself. So feeling the emotions around that, the emotions that you would feel when you're doing something joyful, you're doing something creative, right? Feeling that excitement around it. Let's see, a couple other things I want to talk about. Inner child work. And I mean, this goes with everything, but inner child work, your sacral loves fun and freedom and play, just like your inner child. And so if you can ask yourself, what brought me joy as a child? That can help. And it's funny because there was a workshop I did last year with a mentor of mine. And we had a whole section of this little workshop where we talked about that and how we could bring that into our business. And it was a tough one for a lot of us, like really thinking because you get so caught up in the like parts of business where it's all very structured and serious and but if we can reconnect with that fun and play and freedom, there's so much on the other side of that. So bring that into your life whenever you can. So whether it's, swinging on a swing or jumping on a trampoline or building something, right? What brings out your inner child? And for me, that was the puzzle thing too, where I doubled down on clearly I did a lot of puzzles, where I doubled down on the puzzle thing because that was a conversation we had last year where she's like, what did you enjoy doing as a kid? So we're talking about all these different things I did, and puzzles was a big one. And so that's another thing. And that can kind of appease that inner child in you that can really help you connect with your sacral center. So the other thing, I've talked about boundaries, but just practice saying no, right? Just practice saying no. Your sacral energy is drained when we say yes to things that don't excite us, that aren't aligned. I've said that before in this episode. So just practice saying no. Start practicing your sacral response by saying no to anything that feels heavy in your body, that feels draining in your body or is misaligned. Even just these small, even saying no to small things, just the act of refusal can help build trust in your body. And that's the thing. I think a lot of times, not I think, this is a fact. What happens a lot of times is because we have shut off that sacral center for so long, and we've shut off that connection to that gut response of yes or no, we start to lose trust in ourselves, and we don't really know if I mean yes or no. And this is where like so much indecisiveness can come out with women, is because we have shut off those signals for so long, because we've been saying yes out of obligations. We don't want to sound like a, you know what, we're saying yes because we're fear of disappointment, because that's the ultimate feminine wound, and that's what women do. We don't want to disappoint people. So we turn off that signal in the body. We just don't know how to listen to it anymore. So we lose trust with ourselves. So the way to build trust back in yourself and your body is you practice. First of all, you listen to it, like we talked about, but just the small acts of refusal, like this satisfaction and savoring the satisfaction of saying no, that builds trust back in your body and builds trust back in that gut instinct, and really listening and honoring that, and in doing it and not feeling bad about it. Who was it? Was it Mel Robbins? I always forget who said it, but no is a complete sentence. Because the other thing we do, it's funny because a client and I talked about this a couple months ago, is the other thing women do is we say no, but then we feel like we have to explain why we're saying no. You don't have to explain it at all. No one requires an explanation for why you're saying no. No is a complete sentence. No, the end. That's it. You don't have to justify. You don't have to explain. You don't have to give people a thesis on why you're saying no at all, ever. You don't have to. Practice saying no, and practice saying no, period. The end. No explanation. Just practice it. It's going to be hard. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be hard at first, but you're empowering yourself, re-empowering yourself, taking back your power, and you're also building trust back in that gut instinct that I talked about. Okay, a couple more things here I want to mention just for reconnecting with your sacral. Affirmations, sacral focused affirmations can help. So using affirmations to reconnect with that life force energy, right? I trust my body to guide me with what feels good. I am a source of creative energy. My energy is sacred and I use it wisely. These are all really powerful affirmations that can help you reconnect with life force energy. And I'm feeling the need here that I'm going to create something and put it in the show notes. I'm either going to do some EFT tapping. I feel like I want to do some EFT tapping. I'm going to create a little something and I'll put it in the show notes for you to reconnect, to help with these affirmations, and put that in the show notes to help you reconnect with your sacral. I'm going to do that. This just came to me via download, so I'm going to do it. Okay, last one I want to mention here is cycle tracking. And so if you're a menstruating woman, your sacral center, like I said, corresponds with your reproductive organs. And so it's deeply tied to your cycle. So tracking how your energy fluctuates throughout the month, cycle syncing, which I have a whole episode about that. You can go back to last year, just scroll back and go find it. Cycle tracking, cycle syncing is going to be so crucial for you to connect with your sacral center and to reconnect with the energy, because this corresponds to what we were talking about with the energy as far as your human design type, but it's the same thing with your cycle, right? It's about working smarter, not harder. It's about the quality and not the quantity of what we're doing. This is all the same thing when it goes for your cycle, because if we're trying to do the same productive output 24/7, 365, you will 100% burn out, because we're also not doing this in alignment with our hormonal cycle. So cycle syncing is such a great way for you to tune in. And here's the other thing. It's going to be another way for you to listen to your body and to trust your body. So this is multifaceted here. Okay. So I hope that these things. Oh, wait, one more thing I did want to say about the sexuality piece. I wanted to talk about, or as far as things helping connect you with that, with Sacral Center. So sexual energy, right? Using sexual or exploring sexual energy as creative energy. So I mentioned like sexy time with your partner, your husband, whatever, right? That's one thing, but also things that make you feel sexy. So whether it's clothes, or think of like different movements, like sensual movements, like belly dancing or hula hooping, like things that kind of bring out that like sensualness. Is that a word? Those are other things that help explore this sexual energy as creative energy. Specific types of breath work, right? All of these things can really still help you connect with that center, with the sacral center. So I know that was a lot. I think it really comes down to understanding your sacral center as a center that thrives on joy and creativity and alignment, right? And no matter if you have a defined or undefined sacral, like we as women especially, I really feel like the more we as women, regardless of your human design type, whether you have defined or undefined sacral, when we can tune into our sacral center and really support it, I feel like this is how we change the world, because this is where our power is as women. And we have so much power that we're so not aware of. And we take so much of it for granted. And a podcast episode I did the other day on another gal's podcast, we talked about this and how if we as women really understood the amount of power that we have and how much power it lies in even just thinking about your menstrual cycle, where we've been conditioned in the Western world to dread it and I hate it and it's terrible and it's awful. But if we change the narrative just around that part of our female existence and saw it as a superpower, knowing that in different phases of my cycle, I have different strengths that I can hone in on. And when I'm menstruating, I recognize that the right and left hemispheres of my brain are syncing, even like talking to each other even more. And there's this stronger connection there, and that my intuition is stronger there. And that I can, if I quiet my mind and be still, I can hear things coming through during that phase. And then when I get into ovulation, I'm so productive. And if we were to understand how our energy flows throughout each phase of our cycle, we have so much power available to us, rather than just pushing and forcing yourself to do things a certain way because that's what the masculine structure has told you to do, and losing your power, right? Giving your power away. That's what happens when we do that. We're giving our power away. So I really feel like in order to reclaim our power, it starts with this center, this sacral center. I think this is it. And if you're in burnout or you're experiencing burnout or you're maybe on the verge or you feel like I don't want to burn out again, right? This is an opportunity to realign. When you're able to really honor the flow of energy in your sacral center, support your body with the minerals that it needs, tune into that creativity, the pleasure, the flow, right? All of that, supporting your body with those parts of it, physically, emotionally, energetically. This is the foundation for sustainable vitality and power, right? This is where life force energy comes from. It comes from your sacral center. So this is a big one. I really feel like this is a really big one. So as you move through your week, I invite you to ask yourself, am I honoring my energetic blueprint? Am I honoring my sacral energy? Whether it's learning to say no, period, the end. Whether it's taking intentional rest, nourishing your body, exploring sexuality as a means of creativity, right? Every step matters. And all of this builds up and compounds how we really tune into our power and take that back. So I love this conversation so much. I hope this episode resonated with you. And I invite you to share it with a friend too. Share with a friend or leave a review. It means the world to me. Both of those, sharing with a friend and leaving a review, it means the world to me. And as always, I thank you for listening and being part of this journey. And check out the show notes to find the link to what I'm going to put there to help you reconnect with your sacral center with some, I feel like is going to be some EFT tapping. So go check that out. Do that for yourself. Do that for the world. And I will see you in the next episode. And then the next part of this series, we'll be talking about a different center. But I'll see you next time. All right, y'all. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I'd love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I can know how to provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics you'd like to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's at the Hope Pedraza, or you can visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.